should we say what we said in the Barca Loungers?
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I said, look at that little bitch run.
Yeah, Josh. So we were watching the live hearings upstairs, and in fact, we were going till about 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And we completely forgot we were supposed to do this program.
I was like, I think we gotta go downstairs.
Yeah, but watching Josh Hawley run and people laugh at him was the highlight of our evening thus far. But now we get to talk to all of you at Vroman's for the book that you already know about, because you already have a copy, and I know because I signed 200 copies of this today, and my wrist is really sore, and I ran out 2 pens. So
those are my pens, people. So enjoy. Also, can I just take a moment to say, Josh Hawley, a man that runs away from danger, a man that runs toward danger, just got back from Ukraine, and he is going back this weekend to serve with the Legion over in Ukraine. So we all stand with you and with Ukraine, and you are our hero, Malcolm Nance.
Yes, well, thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who's attending this, giving up your evening to hear me. You probably have heard me before, and if you haven't, well, you're going to have a terrible evening, because I am not the most, let me put it this way, these days, hopeful guy, and this is not the most hopeful book. But more importantly, you need to know it anyway, especially with the things that are going on in the world today. And as I like to say, I've just come back from trying to defend and uphold the Eastern wall of democracy, to come back and find the Western wall of democracy is crumbling in a way. And this book, which I finished, almost a year ago, has only accelerated. The things that I talk about and predict in it have only accelerated and gotten worse. And we're seeing that tonight.
This is why we call him Shouty McShoutface on my show. But we also call him Nance-Stradamus, because, and we just talked about this on my radio show this morning. I sometimes feel like Malcolm does not he gets a lot of, attribution in the press, but I think a lot of he makes the press look bad, because his first book, The Plot to Hack America, came out before the 2016 election. He warned you that Russia was going to try to hack the 2016 election. And what happened here, he predicted before this happened, before January 6th happened on the Bill Maher show. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was on real time. For those of you who didn't see it, I was on real time with Bill Maher 2 days after the election. And Bill, to his credit, was trying to do the kumbaya thing. Biden won the election. Now let's reach out to people and let's see what Trump voters, can reach out and work across party lines. And he said, enough doom and gloom. And I said, oh, you want doom and gloom? I'll give you doom and gloom.
I'm your man.
This is not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the United States is going into an insurgency, an armed, a military paramilitary activity, or a military paramilitary campaign to destabilize the government. And he caught on quite quickly. He was like, you mean like Iraq? And I said, well, you could consider that, considering we have Uday and Qusay in office. But I didn't mean in Iraq. I meant in another context. And in fact, if I were to pick any context, it would be Ireland, where you have Sinn Féin, the political party, representing the families and futures and hopes of a group, the paramilitaries, who are fighting the British openly, destabilizing the environment, carrying out acts of terror. So that's what I meant. And 62 days later, which was, by the way, 1 month after the contract for this book was signed.
Yeah.
When I was saying, hey, the United States is going into a very unstable, possibly a generation-long insurgency, the insurrection happened.
Well, yeah. And Malcolm, here's a good blurb. He could blurb himself. He said, this book scared the crap out of me. And he wrote it. So I was reading it last night, and Malcolm stayed in my house, and I had to knock at his door. Daddy, I'm scared. Hold me. But people want to probably get your reaction, Malcolm, to what we just saw, to the January 6th hearings, because you predicted all of this, and you were saying one of the most, as we were sitting up there, one of the most terrifying things even to you was the Secret Service chatter. They were talking to their loved ones, thinking they weren't going to make it. Vice President Pence's detail. Yeah,
and it's good you're having this program after, while that hearing's going on, because not only am I evaluating that in real time, I'm cross-referencing it to everything that I wrote.
Yeah.
And again, the stuff that I wrote in here is about a year old, but it's really a predictive analysis of what's coming. And that's not happy. So, the things that I wrote in here were just pro forma intelligence analysis of what was actually happening that day. And I saw that there was coordination, cooperations, meetings between these militia groups. And one of the things I said tonight is, I want to hear the radio communications of the Secret Service. That will determine how serious this was. And for the first time tonight, they played the radio communications, and it's chilling. It's chilling. You could just hear in their voices how concerned they were. They're going to have to risk moving the vice president. And the one officer who said they were calling, there were some tough calls. They were calling their wives and kids and families, essentially saying goodbyes. Well, if the Secret Service vice president's detail is doing that, which means they're going to have to go weapons out. And the one guy said it was going to go very lethal, very quick, right? And we were going to be taking this to a new level, which means they were going to mass shoot hundreds of people. The Secret Service won't shoot one guy when they come out with a submachine gun, right? They're going to clear the ground. And these guys were worried. This is where they were being forced to. The White House wasn't responding. Terrifying stuff. That, though, was January 6th. And this book is not just about January 6th. It's if January 6th was one event in a campaign of events, what's coming next, right? So, and I project that in here.
Spoiler alert, it's not good.
Well, let's just say it's concerning. And you should be concerned. And, people can say, well, now we've heard about it from the January 6th committee. Why should we read this? Well, because the January 6th committee is just getting around to going through the material that I wrote down a year ago and analyzed a year and a half ago in real time when I was on air with MSNBC that day on January 6th going, hey, there's organized teams in here. There may be what we call a murder cell in this crowd. 10,000 people are there to force the Capitol. 2,000 are inside. But are there 5 or 6 people who are there dedicated to murdering staff? Now we're finding, yes, people were in there and were going to hunt down and kill or injure or rape or sexually assault or strip and scourge members of Congress. And it's terrifying to think that within the context of this. But I only use January 6th to illustrate the point that happened a year and a half ago. Now, what comes next? How do you predict what's going to go on? You can't really predict it, but you can see all the breadcrumbs that should lead you as a reader to say, I know what's going to happen next. This is not going to get better. If I see X group, and X group organizing, or I see the Trump, what we call Titus, the Trump insurgency in the United States. Now, if you read the entire history about how this all came together from individual insurgent groups, militia groups, to virtually every Trump supporter becoming part of his campaign.